First contact in the deep. Dr. Sarah Chen hadn't expected anything unusual during her 6-month rotation at the Marianas Research Station. The facility, anchored 15,000 feet beneath the Pacific Ocean, was humanity's deepest permanent installation, a place where scientists studied the mysteries of Earth's most extreme environment. But on this particular morning, as she analyzed data from the station's array of seismic sensors, something caught her attention. "Hey, Marcus," she called to her colleague, who was logging specimen samples across the lab. "Come look at these readings." Marcus Wheeler, the station's geologist, peered over her shoulder at the display. The seismic pattern pulsed with an unnaturally regular rhythm, like a heartbeat in the Earth's crust. "That's not geological," he said, frowning. "And it's not marine life either." "It started about 3 hours ago," Sarah explained, pulling up more data. "The pattern repeats exactly every 108 seconds. Nature doesn't work like that." The signal was emanating from a point nearly 2 miles deeper than their already profound depth, in an area of the Challenger Deep that had never been properly mapped. As they studied the readings, the station's AI flagged another anomaly: trace elements in the water column that didn't match any known natural or human-made compounds. Sarah felt a familiar scientific thrill, the same one that had driven her to accept this isolated posting. "We need to investigate this," she said, already pulling up the controls for HERMES, their latest generation deep-sea drone. Marcus looked uncertain. "Protocol says we should notify Surface Command first, and wait 3 days for them to debate it. Whatever's down there is artificial, Marcus. If it's human-made, it could be in trouble. If it's not." She let the implication hang in the pressurized air between them. 20 minutes later, ADRES descended through the crushing darkness, its advanced sensors piercing the eternal night of the Hadal Zone. Sarah and Marcus watched through its feeds, along with Dr. Yuki Tanaka, their marine biologist, who joined them after hearing the commotion. "Wait," Yuki said suddenly, pointing to one of the secondary displays. "The water temperature is rising. That shouldn't be possible at this depth." The drone's lights illuminated something that made them all fall silent. Rising from the ocean floor like a fallen monument was a structure that defied explanation. Its surface was smooth and metallic, yet somehow organic in design, with curves and patterns that spoke of an intelligence far removed from human engineering. It stretched for what must have been nearly a kilometer, partially buried in the sediment. "That's not ours," Marcus whispered unnecessarily. As ERMES drew closer, they could see damage along the vessel's hull, if that's what it was. Massive gashes and tears suggested a violent descent through the atmosphere, perhaps years or decades ago. But what truly captured their attention was the faint light pulsing from within, visible through gaps in the structure's skin, matching the rhythm of their mysterious signal. "There's movement inside," Sarah said, adjusting the drone's sensors. "And electromagnetic patterns consistent with powered systems." Before anyone could respond, a new signal overlaid their instruments, a clear, structured transmission that caused their communications array to automatically begin translation. The message that emerged was both simple and extraordinary. To the observers above, "We are the Meridian, a seed ship of the Astral Concordat. Our vessel was damaged avoiding a solar storm, forcing emergency landing in your ocean's depths. We have survived here, adapting our systems to the pressure, but our power cores are failing. Our children sleep in stasis, and we require assistance. We have watched your species progress, waiting until you reached sufficient technological understanding. Please respond." Sarah looked at her colleagues, seeing her own mix of fear and wonder reflected in their faces. This wasn't just first contact. This was first contact with an alien species that needed humanity's help. Everything would change from this moment forward. "Send response," she said firmly, her fingers steady on the controls. "Message begins. We hear you, Meridian. We're here to help." As EERES continued its survey of the massive ship, they began to grasp the full scope of what lay before them. This wasn't just a scientific discovery. It was a rescue mission that would push human ingenuity to its absolute limits. The aliens had chosen the perfect moment to reveal themselves. Humanity had just barely achieved the technological capability to reach them, but only if they could innovate beyond anything they'd attempted before. Surface Command needs to know about this now, Marcus said, already composing the emergency transmission. "We'll need every deep-sea expert and engineer on the planet." "Look," Yuki pointed to new data streaming in. "Their hull is actually integrated with the ocean floor. They've been using the Earth's thermal vents for minimal power all this time. Brilliant adaptation." Sarah studied the alien ship's design with growing admiration. These beings had not only survived one of Earth's most hostile environments, but had found a way to sustain themselves there, waiting patiently for humanity to advance enough to help them. Now that wait was over, and the real challenge was about to begin. "Send another message," she instructed. "Tell them to hold on. Tell them humanity is coming." The weight of two worlds. The Marianas Research Station's cramped command center had never been designed to hold 30 people. Yet here they were, deep-sea engineers, military officials, and scientific experts from 12 different nations, all crammed around displays showing the alien vessel christened Meridian by its inhabitants. Admiral Helen Foster of the International Ocean Command stood at the center, her weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of the monitors. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," she said, addressing Dr. Chen. "They've been down there for 23 years, using geothermal energy to maintain minimal life support for their survivors." "Yes," Sarah confirmed, pointing to the thermal imaging display. "But the geological activity they've been harnessing is shifting. Within 2 months, their power source will be gone. They have over 3,000 beings in suspended animation, including children. If their stasis systems fail. And we can't just attach power cables because." Marcus Wheeler stepped forward, gesturing to the structural analysis. "The pressure at that depth would crush any conventional power delivery system we have. We're talking about 16,000 pounds per square inch. Their hull is the only thing we've ever seen that can withstand it, and even that's starting to show stress fractures." "What about bringing them up?" someone suggested from the back. Dr. Tanaka shook her head. "Their ship is partially integrated with the ocean floor now. A direct lift would tear it apart. Plus, rapid depressurization would kill everyone inside." The room erupted in technical discussions until a new voice cut through the chaos. "We need to think like salvage operators, not scientists." All heads turned to Captain Maya Rodriguez, a veteran of deep-sea recovery operations. She'd arrived hours ago from a submarine rescue mission in the South China Sea. Moving to the main display, she began marking points on the Meridian's hull. "Look at how they've anchored themselves," she said. "They're using the same principle we use for deep-sea oil wells, just at a much larger scale. We don't need to power their whole ship at once. We need to stabilize sections, compartment by compartment." Sarah felt a spark of hope. "Their internal systems are modular. If we could power each section independently." "Exactly," Maya nodded. "We use modified oil rig technology. Multiple small power delivery systems instead of one big one. ancient tech by their standards, but pressure-tested over decades. Admiral Foster studied the displays. How many rigs would we need? At least 7, Moya calculated quickly. Positioned here, here, and here. We need to modify them significantly, and we'd have to work with the Meridian's engineers to create compatible interfaces. The cost would be astronomical, one of the military officials pointed out. The knowledge we could gain would be priceless, Sarah countered. They crossed interstellar space. Their technology, their medical knowledge, their understanding of physics, it could advance us by centuries. Admiral Foster raised her hand for silence. I've already spoken with the Security Council. Cost is not an issue. Every major nation has pledged support. The question is, can we do this in time? Maya shared a look with Sarah. With unlimited resources and cooperation from the Meridian's engineers. Maybe, but we'll need to start now. Then let's begin, Foster declared. Captain Rodriguez, you'll lead the engineering operation. Dr. Chen, you and your team will be our primary contact with the Meridian's crew. I want proposals for power delivery systems within 48 hours. As the room broke into focused working groups, Sarah received a new transmission from the Meridian. Their message was simple, but carried a weight that made her breath catch. We have monitored your discussions through your drilling platform's sonic emissions. Your solution is elegant in its simplicity. We underestimated your species' practical wisdom. Sarah smiled as she typed her response. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Over the next several days, the operation took shape. Ships positioned themselves above the Marianas Trench, carrying modified oil rigs and specialized equipment from every corner of the globe. The Meridian's engineers shared detailed schematics of their power systems, while human engineers worked around the clock to design compatible interfaces. The first test came a week later. Sarah watched anxiously as the initial power coupling descended through the darkness. The entire operation hinged on whether their primitive technology could interface with the aliens' advanced systems. Hermes cameras showed the massive coupling approaching the designated connection point on the Meridian's hull. The alien metal seemed to shift and flow, creating a perfect mating surface for their interface. Green lights flashed across the monitoring stations. Power flow stable, Marcus reported, his voice tense. Pressure seals holding. They're accepting the feed. A cheer went up in the command center. It was only the first step, but it proved their concept would work. They could save these people. Sarah watched new data stream in from the Meridian's now-powered sensors. For the first time, they could see clear images of the ship's interior. Vast chambers held thousands of crystalline stasis pods, each containing a sleeping form. Medical data suggested they were stable but slowly degrading. The race against time was still very much on. Send the next coupling down, Moya ordered. We need all 7 online before we can begin the gradual repressurization sequence. Sarah felt the weight of 2 worlds on their shoulders, their own and that of the mysterious civilization that had entrusted them with their children's lives. But looking around at the determined faces of her colleagues, she knew that weight would be carried with everything humanity had to give. The Meridian had waited 23 years for humanity to reach them. Now humanity would show them that their wait had not been in vain. Ancient solutions. The storm hit without warning, sending 30-foot waves crashing across the support ship's decks. Captain Maya Rodriguez stood in the Marianas Station's control room, watching feeds from the surface vessels struggling to maintain their positions above them. How are the power couplings holding? She demanded, eyes fixed on the stress readings. 5 and 7 are showing strain. Sarah Chen replied, fingers flying across her console. The wave action is pulling on the cables more than we anticipated. They had successfully connected all 7 power couplings to the Meridian over the past 2 weeks, but maintaining those connections through the Pacific's volatile weather was proving to be another challenge entirely. The Meridian is sending new data, Dr. Tanaka announced. They're offering a solution. He paused, studying the incoming schematics. It's brilliant, but it's not what we'd expect. Sarah moved to his station, examining the alien transmission. They want us to use triple-braided steel cables. That's centuries-old technology. Like anchor chains on old ships. Maya said, understanding dawning. The weight of the chains themselves would help absorb the motion from above. The heavier, the better. Marcus wheeled his chair over. But the power conduits could be protected within the braiding, Maya finished. The Meridian's engineers are suggesting we wrap our modern tech in old-school armor. It was becoming a pattern. Every time they faced a new challenge, the solution seemed to involve combining humanity's tried-and-true methods with the aliens' advanced technology. The Meridian's engineers appeared to have developed a deep respect for Earth's primitive but reliable approaches to deep-sea operations. Surface ships are reporting cable stress at critical levels, an operator announced. We need to make a decision. Maya straightened. Begin manufacturing the braided cables. We'll replace them one at a time, starting with number 7. Dr. Chen, please inform our friends we're implementing their suggestion. The next 48 hours became a blur of activity. Surface ships deployed massive spools of steel cable, while deep-sea robots carefully transferred the power conduits. The Meridian's hull adapted to each new connection, its strange metal flowing to create perfect seals around the reinforced cables. But as they worked, another problem emerged. The pressure readings in Section 3 are increasing, Marcus reported during their daily briefing. The Meridian's hull is starting to buckle in that area. Sarah studied the data from their deep-sea sensors. The alien vessel's structure, miraculous as it was, had been under enormous pressure for over 2 decades. Some sections were beginning to show fatal wear. What about their stasis chambers? Admiral Foster asked from her video feed. Still stable. But if we lose Section 3, we'll lose structural integrity across 40% of the ship, Sarah explained. We need a way to reinforce it until we can begin the ascent sequence. The room fell silent, each person trying to envision a solution that could work at such depths. It was Maya who spoke first, her eyes distant as if seeing something from long ago. During World War II, there was a Liberty ship that cracked in half during a storm, she said slowly. The crew managed to hold it together long enough to reach port by welding extra plates across the crack. They called it splinting. She moved to the main display, pulling up a cross-section of the Meridian's hull. What if we did the same thing here? Not with welding, obviously, but with pressure plates and titanium bolts. Old school patch job, just at extreme depth. The pressure at that depth would crush any material we have. One of the engineers objected. Not if we use their tech for the plates themselves, Sarah countered, catching Maya's vision. The Meridian's outer hull can already handle the pressure. We just need them to help us manufacture suitable patches. She sent a message to their alien colleagues, explaining the concept. The response came quickly. They could indeed create the necessary materials, using their matter restructuring technology to form perfect reinforcement plates. They would need humanity's help to position and secure them, but the basic concept was sound. Like putting a cast on a broken bone, Dr. Tanaka mused. Sometimes the oldest medical techniques are still the best ones. The operation to reinforce Section 3 took 3 days. deep-sea construction robots, originally designed for oil rig maintenance, were repurposed to position the alien-manufactured plates. Human ingenuity guided their precise movements, while alien technology ensured the materials could withstand the crushing depths. Sarah watched through AERNES cameras as the final plate was secured. The seamless blend of human and alien engineering was beautiful in its way, proof that two very different civilizations could combine their knowledge to overcome seemingly impossible challenges. Pressure stabilizing in Section 3, Marcus reported. Hull integrity is improving. We're going to make it. A new message appeared from the Meridian. Your species continues to surprise us. We had technologies beyond your imagining, yet we failed where you now succeed. Perhaps we relied too much on advancement and forgot the wisdom of simpler solutions. Maya read the message and smiled. Tell them that's humanity's specialty. We're too stubborn to forget the old ways, too curious to stop finding new ones, and just smart enough to know when to use both. As if in response to her words, the reinforced power cables held steady against the storm above, channeling the energy the Meridian desperately needed. Section 3's hull grew stronger under its makeshift splints, and deep beneath the Pacific, two civilizations continued their unlikely collaboration, proving that sometimes the best way forward was to remember the lessons of the past. Begin preparations for the next phase, Admiral Foster ordered. It's time to plan their ascent. Sarah looked at the sleeping forms in their stasis chambers, visible through the Meridian's internal cameras. Soon they would begin the delicate process of bringing the ancient vessel up from the depths, saving thousands of lives. But first, they had more problems to solve, more old solutions to adapt to new challenges. And somehow, she knew they would succeed. Because that's what humans did best. They found a way, no matter what. The day of ascent arrived with tense anticipation. 30 ships formed a perfect circle on the surface, each connected to the Meridian by the reinforced power cables that had become her lifelines. In the Marianas Station's control room, Sarah Chen watched the final preparations with carefully controlled breathing. All sections report ready, Marcus announced, his voice steady despite the pressure of the moment. Power flow is stable across all couplings. Maya Rodriguez stood at the primary control station, her hands resting lightly on the console. Begin pressure equalization sequence. Let's wake them up slowly. The plan they'd developed over the past month was audacious but methodical. They would gradually decrease the pressure inside the Meridian while raising her from the ocean floor, one careful meter at a time. Too fast, and the sudden pressure change would kill everyone aboard. Too slow, and the hull might not survive the transition zone. First stasis pod cluster is beginning reactivation, Dr. Tanaka reported. Biosigns are stable. They're waking up. Through the Meridian's internal cameras, they watched as the first of the crystalline pods began to glow with a soft blue light. Inside, alien forms stirred for the first time in 23 years. The first message from an awakened crew member came minutes later. The children. Are the children safe? Sarah felt her throat tighten as she sent the response. All stasis pods are stable. We're bringing you home. The ascent began with agonizing slowness. Each meter required precise adjustments to pressure, power flow, and structural support. The reinforced cables creaked under the strain, but Maya's design held. Hour by hour, the Meridian rose from her long-time resting place. 10,000 meters, Marcus called out, entering the transition zone. This was the moment they'd all feared, the point where pressure changes would be most dramatic, where the hull would face its greatest stress. They'd reinforced every vulnerable section, but this was the true test of their combined engineering. A warning alarm blared. Stress fracture developing in Section 5. Compensating with power couplings 3 and 4, Maya responded instantly. Redirect support to the affected area. Sarah watched as the Meridian's adaptive hull flowed to reinforce the weakening section, working in concert with their external supports. Human and alien technology moving as one, each compensating for the other's weaknesses. Through it all, more stasis pods activated. The Meridian's passengers woke to find themselves in the middle of their own rescue, their children opening their eyes to see a new world reaching out to save them. 5,000 meters, Marcus announced. We're halfway there. A sudden tremor ran through the entire operation. Deep sea currents, stronger than their models had predicted, threatened to push the massive ship off course. All ships, hold position, Maya commanded. Increased power to stabilizing thrusters. The surface fleet fought against the currents, their engines straining to maintain the perfect circle necessary for an even ascent. Below, the Meridian's own systems worked with human technology to maintain stability. 3,000 meters, 2,000, 1,000. The final stretch seemed to take forever and pass in an instant. After 23 years in the Hadal depths, the Meridian broke the surface under a dawn sky. Massive and graceful, her hull shimmering with an otherworldly light, she rose like a legend from the sea. Sarah's console lit up with messages from the now fully awakened crew. Images filled her screen, alien children pressing their faces against viewports, seeing sunlight for the first time in their lives. Parents holding their young ones close, looking out at the fleet of Earth vessels that had come to their rescue. The Meridian's captain, finally able to communicate directly, transmitted a message to all ships. 23 years ago, we chose your world not just for its oceans, but for its people. We watched you grow, saw your potential. Today, you have proved that our faith was well placed. Humanity has earned its place among the stars not through advanced technology, but through your unwavering spirit and ingenious minds. Beyond the surface, 1 month later, Sarah stood on the deck of a research vessel, watching teams of human and alien scientists working together. The Meridian floated nearby, its hull now fully repaired, its people adapting to their new home in Earth's oceans. They had chosen to stay, these refugees from the stars. Their ship, too large and too adjusted to water pressure to ever fly again, would become the first joint human-alien deep-sea research station. In exchange for Earth's hospitality, they offered to share their knowledge gradually, at a pace that wouldn't overwhelm human development. It's strange, Maya said, joining her at the rail. We thought first contact would come from the stars, but it came from the depths of our own oceans. Sarah nodded, watching a group of alien children learning to swim alongside human instructors. Maybe that's better. We proved ourselves not by matching their technology, but by showing them something they'd forgotten. The value of simple solutions. The value of never giving up, no matter how impossible the problem seems. A shadow passed overhead as one of the Meridian's transport pods flew by, a graceful blend of their matter manipulation technology and human marine engineering principles. It was the first of many collaborations to come. The aliens had brought advanced technology beyond human imagination, but humanity had given them something equally valuable. A reminder that progress wasn't always about complexity. Sometimes it was about remembering the basics, about using what worked, no matter how simple it seemed. And perhaps that was the greatest lesson of all, that two civilizations, meeting in Earth's deepest trenches, could learn from each other. That the future wasn't about abandoning the past, but about building upon it. As the sun set over the Pacific, Sarah received one final message from the Meridian's captain. We came here as refugees, running from a dying star. We stayed as explorers, waiting for your technology to advance. But we will remain as teachers and students both, for you have as much to teach us as we have to share. Together, we will explore not just the depths of your oceans, but the depths of possibility itself. Sarah smiled and began composing her response. The horizon stretched out before them, filled with endless potential. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and succeeded not through overwhelming force or advanced technology, but through ingenuity, determination, and the wisdom to know that sometimes the oldest solutions were still the best ones. The future had arrived, not with a bang from above, but with a whisper from the deep. And it was more wonderful than anyone could have imagined.